So I would like to welcome everybody to this Global Health Impact Network and Fund podcast. And today we're featuring a company that we've been doing due diligence on for quite a while, VitalFriend. And we're very excited about this particular investment and also having VitalFriend as a featured company on our network. We have with us Gaurav Kohli, who is the founder and CEO of VitalFriend. And purpose of today's call is really to just give our network members and potential investors an opportunity to learn a little bit more about VitalFriend and see why we're so excited about it. And this is really going to be promotional for us in anticipation of an investment opportunity in SPV that we're putting together. And also after that, it's very likely that the fund will invest in a follow-on investment. So welcome, Gaurav.
Thank you, Gary. Glad to be here. And I think in this journey for the last couple of months with you and with the whole Global Health Impact Network and the fund, it's been amazing meeting such a delightful investors and the clinicians and the doctors is exactly what reminds me why I'm doing something in healthcare and making an impact. So, I mean, a little introduction about myself for the folks in the GHIF network is my name is Gaurav Kohli. I've been in the Bay Area for over 30 years, building my fifth startup now in healthcare. I've done previous ones where the investors have gotten exits up to 10x to 20x. Depends on the type of companies I've done in different industries and very well aware of what is required in terms of building a right company as with the right team in the market. I invest in many companies myself and have also had a privilege to be a GP for one of the funds, which I have very high regards for Gary and him to do so. So I leave that to them. But for me, as entrepreneur startup in my heart, I think it's great what we are building the next generation products. In my earlier in my career in the companies that I've done, very highly technical. Some of the products that you already use. The latest one I'll tell you is a company that I ran, which is Europcar. And that's a $3 billion company, and it was worldwide. And I had sold my startup to Fox Rent a Car at the airport, which basically got sold to Europcar, which got sold to Volkswagen. So, very well aware of when people join in as funds and startups, I'm not looking for people to come in and then stick their money into a fund, which will be investing in a startup for next their grandkids to enjoy. The goal is to make a high impact in the mission that we have. The goal is to make sure that like-minded investors are joining in, especially doctors as we are in the healthcare, and also like-minded, making sure ultimately the right patient care is provided to the patients, right? So what have we done in this current startup? And you can read about my LinkedIn in the past about what the other companies are. But my current one is we are the first ever FDA cleared medical watch in the world that takes blood pressure and other vital signs. The indication of use is blood pressure and heart rate and pulse, and there are other basically vital signs we have attached to it. Now I know what you're thinking in your mind about all the different type of things that are out there, whether it's the Whoop of the world, or Auras of the world, or the Samsung and the Apples of the world. I totally get it. But none of them is FDA cleared, number one. None of them is a medical device that can be used for diagnostics and medically graded data. We are the only one with a K number class 2 device that can do blood pressure using oximeter blood pressure. And this is what this is. We call it the Buddy. So this is the Buddy. I mean, Gary's been wearing it and loves it, and many other folks, many other patients today. So this is the oximeter, which is the band that goes in that makes the magic happen. So throughout this podcast today, I'll talk a lot more about this device. But again, the coolest part is we're not a device company because our platform is device agnostic. It integrates with 350 devices, including Apple Watch, including the other things, other devices that are available, including CGM like Dexcom or blood sugar monitors, also or weighing scale. So we connect with all that, collect all the data, and run the analysis on the data for the doctors. And how cool is that? A device that works, FDA cleared, A company, basically, we are doing RPM, remote patient monitoring, that takes all the data, does all the analysis being preventative, can help you predict things that can happen in the future that if you're collecting your data efficiently. And it's covered by insurance under 5 CPD code. So it's free for everybody who's a senior and which has a chronic condition under Medicare or any other insurance. So a lot more you will learn today. Very excited to be here, to be part of this network with Gary, and met multiple different doctors. And I love to hear from most of them individually, one-on-ones. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks so much for that introduction and summary of what VitalFriend brings to the table. I'll talk a little bit about just the process that we're using right now. So I think many of you who are watching this, who are members of Global Health Impact Network and Fund, know a lot about our process and how we do things. But for those that are listening to this that don't, so at the end of the day, I'm the founder and the CEO of Global Health Impact Fund and Network, which we started about 8 years ago. After 35 years in healthcare, and pretty much wearing every operator hat there is to wear, including as a serial entrepreneur, I decided that what was really lacking at the time, about 8 years ago, was a ecosystem that promoted availability of clinicians as active participants in the innovation process in healthcare. There was a lot of disenfranchised clinicians out there. We've all had the opportunity to use technology that was exposed to us from our institutions. And when we looked at it, we said, was there a clinician within 1,000 miles of the development team when they developed this? Because it just made our life a lot more complicated. So I, at that point, the light bulb went off and said, you know what, we need to create a place that makes it easy for those clinicians to educate themselves about technologies like this. Like, we'll look at a watch and like, well, what's the technology behind it? Is it PPG? Is it oscillometric? What does it do? What does it accomplish? And as Gaurav pointed out, there's a lot of technology out there. And, you probably can't see it. There it is. We all know what that is. And that doesn't do medical grade documentation of information. It's information, it's data. You can use it to maybe, to screen a bit and to look at trending, but it's not medical information. A perfect example, which I won't go into, but is when it first came out to be able to detect atrial fibrillation. And all it resulted in with my colleagues was a lot of cardiologists getting calls from patients saying, doctor, I'm in atrial fibrillation. What do I do? And their response was, come to the office and we'll do a 12 lead and then we'll decide what to do. So it brings a lot of value to the table, not only for the providers, but the providers and their patients. And then we'll talk about the other incredible opportunities that it brings to the table in terms of data and information. So what we did was we created this network, which was a place to promote collaboration, communication, education by clinicians in a secure environment. And who better than to pick the early stage market disruptive technologies than the clinicians themselves? So we have Fund One. We raised $10 million. The metrics speak for themselves. And now we're in Fund Two. And then we're also working with companies very closely to match companies with targeted subject matter expert and health professional investors in the early stages of the company. And that network of individuals are not only investors, but they work with the company to help them reach their milestones and get an earlier, higher valuation exit by leveraging the networks of the individuals within our network. So that's a little bit about Global Health Impact Network and Fund. And anyone who's listening, if you're a health professional and you'd like to join, we'll provide information at the end of the call here, where it's easy for you to get involved. And if you're interested, obviously, in investing, it would be through that as well. Okay, great. That's kind of the intros.
One thing, if I may add.
Sure. Go ahead.
Before we go into the question, love to give the mission of the company behind it. Great. I think it will be great. So if I take the stage for 2 minutes, that'll be great.
Please.
So I want to take the people on a memory lane. I think it's very important. because done companies, like I said in the past, have a great team, and you can look at all the stuff in the deck and the other things of the due diligence that Gary's team has done is amazing, actually very detailed. But there's a mission. We all have our parents. Our parents are not with us. They are basically not living near to us. They're living maybe a little far away or maybe different countries and so forth. That was the real mission of when we started, when I saw there's a hole in the market. Not just the senior care, it's about how we are providing better care to our seniors who worked so hard for their life. And now when they are basically older, how are they taken care well? They have to go to the hospital every time, take care of every single thing themselves. Some people are bed rested, some people are retired in SNFs, some people are retired in assisted living, independent living, you name it. Basically, it's all different aspect of things, right? Everybody's trying to sell them something or the other. Everybody's trying to basically make sure they don't go to the hospital and other things, right? You talk to them about technology, they're not savvy about technology. They only know technology based on, hey, I can use a phone and a phone is an iPhone or something, doesn't matter. They don't know every single bits and pieces. So that was our key area. How do I, as me, Gaurav Kohli, my parents are not living near me, is able to know about their health today that I can monitor and I can look at it and have a peace of mind? We achieved it. An year in, we have achieved it where now my parents are in overseas. Basically, they live in India. And right now, sitting here, I can go to my app of the VitalFriend app and I can look at their data fully here, real time on my app, and I
Mm-hmm.
can see what's happening with an FDA cleared device that they're wearing it in India, monitored by the doctors in US and by the monitoring team in US, and I can even remote trigger a blood pressure, and I know 24/7 data that's collected, over 1440 data points per day per vital. That is fantastic. That's the reason we built this thing where we're collecting the data and the mission connecting to our parents back again, collecting the loved ones back again. And that's one very critical for us to build this company.
Yeah, and that also is very synergistic with the mission and vision of our network. There's a reason that we put impact into the name, um, because there's a lot of great digital health technology that's coming out, especially post-pandemic, and highly accepted, but it's much of it can be used only in places that have access to all of the greater technology that's necessary to run it. Whereas when we're looking at digital health technology, and I can remember way back to my second company when I was traveling everywhere from Delhi down to Cochin, bringing nurses back to the US during the nursing shortage in the late 90s. And I was traveling to the most remote villages while I was there, everywhere from Delhi down to Cochin. And the most amazing concept for me, which was immediately available, like I'm a runner, I've done a couple of Ironmans, so I would go out in the morning and run into the middle, of nowhere where people were living in huts and tents many times, but everyone always had a phone. Okay, everyone had a mobile phone, and in this day and age, access to cellular technology is pretty available. And with this technology, that's all you really need is the watch and the phone. So now, if your mother is in Cochin, India, and you're in New York City, and you want to see what's mom's blood pressure and her O2 sat and all sorts of other data and information, you can look at it. But even more importantly, the clinicians have access to that as well. So we can engage with those individuals. And as Gaurav will talk about, there are even ways from a communication perspective to even alert those individuals or be alerted if an untoward event happens while they're wearing the watch. So that's a great concept that really is very, very much in tune with the kind of companies that we insist on investing in, not just technology itself. So I think now what I'd like to do is we're going to go through a bunch of questions, which will give you a broad overview of VitalFriend and the technology and where the company is and use of proceeds as the investment money comes in, and goals in terms of milestones over time. And then we can also address how the network and fund can help in that march towards a commercialization, scalability, and ultimately an exit. So the first question that we want to discuss, which Gaurav alluded to a little bit, is the senior market, right? This market of elderly individuals who are living in environments that are either by themselves with assistance or minimal assistance to senior living facilities. And many of us have parents that are in those situations. And what are the challenges in those places for those seniors from a medical care perspective, from a monitoring perspective, from an ability to communicate with those individuals' families? What does VitalFriend bring to the table for the facilities, for the seniors, and for the families?
That's a great question. The main thing is that today, when the seniors are in the facilities or at home or anywhere, whether they're living with the adult parents or individually too, you have a care gap. There is basically, and in each one of the areas of the facility a person is staying in, or a hospital they're staying in, or a home they're staying in, has different challenges. So I'm going to go, kind of generalize a little more, where they have basically care gaps. Somebody getting up in the morning and going for a walk every single day because they're used to it, going through that routine every day, is that healthy? I don't know. But if I know that every day in the morning when they're getting up and a blood pressure is pretty high, and you can diagnose it real time and not wearing all the stuff on your hand to take the cuff every time, now you change the care gap a little and saying, hey, when they get up in the morning, let them rest a little. Then after that, go for the walk or other things. Or don't do all your exercise of 10,000 steps right in the morning and the whole day just sit in front of a TV and do nothing. That's unhealthy. So there's a lot of stuff that we've built in, which increases retention, usage of the product, being in their lifestyle. The key part of for us was, why did we use a form factor of a watch? Because we wanted something, because wearable is in the high rise right now. Everybody should be wearing a wearable, is what I believe on. Doesn't matter if it's ours or anybody's else. Well, why not wearing something which is ours, which is medically graded? So when you take that and your data comes in real time all the time, it gives you feedback to a better outcomes and care. So care gaps is one of the key things. Second is also, when you go to a nursing facility or you go to assisted living facility, like I said, each of the areas are different type of challenges. The nurses are spending so much time taking vitals for the adults, or the adults are spending so much time taking vitals of themselves. Does anybody know in the audience really knows how to take a real blood pressure using the one on your arm? Forget the watch. It's like, really, you have to first sit down 2 feet on the ground, not talking. You have to be empty stomach, 30 minutes of relaxation time as per WHO, World Health Organization, then put it properly, make sure it's not too tight, not too loose, then try it out. Oh my God. You apply that to somebody in the senior level to do it every single day, multiple times a day. It's a nightmare. So that's where we built it, snap it on, and it automatically does the work. You don't have to worry about it. It takes 10 different vitals, not just one: blood pressure, oxygen, heart rate, HRV, temperature, steps, sleep, looks at all your sleep pattern. Then after that, it looks at the missed medication, sedentary reminders, and then your water hydration reminders, and so forth. Multivital functionality. We are the only one in the world that can do a deep sleep blood pressure without waking you up. Nobody can do that. And the accuracy that can be used for medically graded, equal to an Omron. That is huge. So the challenges is also the shortage of the nurse's time. We are basically maximizing the usage of it. When you're in a facility and you have multiple different patients, 100 beds, let's say for assisted living, who do you provide better care to? Right? How do you know where the things are happening and things are falling apart? Who needs more care right away? That single split of a multi-seconds can save a life. We have SOS built in this automatically, and it doesn't wait for it. We already know your vitals. So based on that, it automatically works as an AI engine that all the time, voice activated. That you can say, hey buddy, take my BP. How cool is that? You don't even need to press anything. So that's where we have taken that cool factor into all these different things under one wearable. So people don't have, like Gary just showed both hands, we want one wearable that they trust on and get all the data. So peace of mind to the family member, because now they can see what better care is provided to their family. They can see how the trends are. We don't want to be data overload for them, because for them, they just want to know, hey, is my dad okay? Is my mom
Mhm.
okay? They don't want to know, is my mom's blood pressure at 4 a.m. was this? No, you want to be quick. From a doctor's perspective, you want to be more detailed. You want to go into something as incidents happen. They don't want to have time to spend hours and hours on one patient. It should be summarized quickly. And for the patient themselves, it's the first time ever the data is owned by the patient. They can take along wherever they want. When you apply that things for them and the care facilities, the help they get, and so forth is amazing. So that's where we are solving various challenges from various areas by putting this in the lifestyle of the patient, which opens up this, but also taking an account helping each of those audience to look at the patient's data very quickly. The AI engine that's built in to create summaries, the nurses that are built in to create notes because it's covered by Medicare and it's already the whole this thing is covered by Medicare and by the insurance companies, both on the service and the device. So all that we have to look at different areas and we fix the challenges.
So it also brings up a point for us as part of our due diligence is that, when you isolate blood pressure compared to oxygen saturation, compared to heart rate, which we have devices that are monitoring those on a beat to beat basis, right? But blood pressure is one of those areas, even at the highest medical grade. And as you know, we were invested in Fund One in a company that was addressing ICU and OR in a much more, invasive kind of way. And that was a hard place to start because it's very hard to get any kind of FDA approval for that. Whereas when you start to look at it on the other side of it, from a consumer perspective, from a screening perspective, from a prevention perspective, and from a precision medicine perspective, because everyone's different. And you brought out, like, I've been wearing this watch now for over a month, okay? And I've certainly put it through the acid test. And I'm having to take my blood pressure fairly non-invasive, very non-invasively, but I'm not even aware of it other than I can feel it taking my blood pressure under many different circumstances. And Gaurav pointed out, and that's much more limited for most seniors, but for someone who's a very active person, I now have access to information continuously about my blood pressure under many different circumstances. And I'm hypertensive, I'm on some medication, but I see what we call lability, the variance of your blood pressure based on what you're doing, what you did recently. And it's interesting to see how everyone is different depending on what makes their blood pressure go up. Sometimes you're not even really exerting yourself very much, but it could be stress. It could be hypertension. Everyone's heard the term white coat syndrome. Every time I go to my cardiologist and I go see them, my blood pressure is always up, even though I'm on all the meds, because I'm a little nervous because I'm with the doctor and I'm a physician myself. So it's interesting to be able to get that information and then have a platform on the back end, which is decision support. I tend to refer to it with devices as red light, yellow light, green light, right? I don't want a million numbers and have to figure out what they mean. I want it to be able to say to me, every night at this particular time, your blood pressure seems to be going up just after dinner. I'm just giving an example. And that's something that you can alter a bit to kind of level out the lability of your blood pressure outside of just the medications that you're on, by lifestyle changes, by changes in how you conduct yourself, what you do. So it becomes very, very valuable. And that's why we're so excited about it from a due diligence perspective, because it is allowing us now to look at blood pressure in a way as it relates to stroke prevention, to heart attack prevention, to blood pressure management over time. So, again, we're very excited about that aspect of it. So, great. So that kind of gives us an idea about how it can be used, not just in the senior population, but in the general population for ongoing blood pressure analysis and management. All right. So next, we'd like to talk a little bit about, we talked a little bit about how it helps to reduce the stress and uncertainty for caregivers and for families to an extent, because information is knowledge and knowledge is the ability to execute whatever you're trying to do. Anything else you want to elaborate on that, Gaurav?
You're referring to the question about
Number
the
three, the stress and
yeah.
uncertainty for the caregivers and for the families.
Yeah, I was wanting to go back to the previous one a little more because it talked about how the traditional models are failing in terms of measurements and continuous monitoring. Why continuous monitoring is at the rise, and then I'll come back to I think what you've asked. I wanted to take an example what you brought up, and then I'm so passionate about seniors, and in my C-suite, right, they always say it's like this is not just for seniors, it's for everything, right? And I agree. This device is so easy to use. The form factor is so cool that you can actually give it to anybody. If people who are exercising as youngsters and others. I go back to continuous monitoring, regardless of the age group. Let's say you're 50 years old, collecting your data, 1,440 data points a day, 8.64 million data points per day for HRV. You multiply that by a year, 2 years, 10 years. You go to your doctor, you show them a trends, you show them the stuff and saying, hey, doc, hold on. This is what I can show you. And what is the first thing the doctor is going to say? Where you got this data from? I got it from a wearable. Oh, don't worry about it. I've heard this so many times, believe me. But now if the same patient says, hey, I got it from an FDA cleared device, I've been using it for last 10 years, and this is the data. The doctors are obligated to look at that. It's not that the doctor's going to look at that thing because now it's a medically proven device. It's a medical device. It's not just a watch, right? And that changes the dynamics of the care, changes the dynamics of the trend, and the level of diagnostics that the doctor can do. Now you can look at the data and say, oh my God, you're having this, go get this, go get this, go get this. You add that data back into your system. Now you prepare goals in our backend in the platform. You can create goals. I want my goal to be healthier for this blood pressure, for this vitals, for this much exercise, for this much this. You can set these goals based on your vitals, which is physiological data and psychological data, all together with the biomarkers and macro and micro. You can look at that in the platform. That's why the platform IP is huge for us, more than just a variable. A variable comes and goes. Today we have it, we're the best one. We have a great 2 year ahead start. Somebody else might come in there. We'll integrate with them. That's what we integrate today. So when you apply that continuous monitoring of information to collect the data to take to your doctor adds different level of prevention, and that's true longevity. That's what I
Yeah.
wanted to mention first of all.
Yeah.
Then I think back to what you're saying about reducing stress and uncertainty. I think Gary gave a great example. I'll give an example of myself in a minute too in this. Stress is happening all the time in today's world. People who are driving cars are having stress. As you go outside your house, you're having stress. House, you're having stress. You're not paid a bill on time, you're having a stress. You're having stress just on basic items that are happening at your home. You're cooking, you're having a stress. Stress is part of people's lifestyle now. How do you adapt to that lifestyle and apply a variable that can be diagnostically used, medically graded, so it can help you to balance your life well? Let me give an example. I was giving a demos when we started this company, got the device, amazing looking. Every day I'm taking my stuff normally, but I was doing my demos to multiple different doctors and people and facilities. My chief medical officer told me, hey, Gaurav, you need to go to the doctor because your blood pressure always shows like 122, 125, 135, 140, like that, like something is happening. And what happened ultimately? I said, you know what, I'm going to take your advice. I went to the doctor. I went there. I went in my hand in the biggest arm around machine you can think of. I put my device at the same time, the buddy, and I was looking at the vital buddy, and the vital buddy gave me a reading, that reading exactly same. And then the doctor comes in. He says, hey, it looks like you have white coat syndrome and you're a little stressed out right now. So why don't you do one thing? Let me schedule you for a month later and come back again and let's take your blood pressure once more. I said, hey, doc, let me make it easy for you. My trends for this blood pressure for last about 7 months have been this. Oh no, no, you're wearing one of those Samsungs or something. I said, no, I'm wearing the Vital Buddy. It's the first ever FDA cleared device. That's it. Oh, really? Let me see it. I show it to him. He sees the oximeter inflating, deflating. He's like, let me take a look at your data. He looks at the data. He's like, Gaurav, you gotta go for your echo right now. You gotta go for your dye-based cardio thing that I went through the MRI and stuff. And then he comes back. He says, you need to be on this pills. You need to eat this statins. You need to eat this stuff. You need to have a healthy life. Don't do this. Don't do this. The whole dynamic changed, and I was able to diagnose this in a couple of days. I can't give you a best example than that. It happened really
Right.
with me.
And I think it also brings up the point that, there's a lot of data that we have access to as clinicians for years. I've been practicing, close to 35 years, but we've never had access to data from blood pressure throughout the day. And the reason
Exactly.
is, and here's the perfect example, and I'm the first to admit it. I told you I have hypertension. And my clinician said to me, Gary, you got to be tracking your blood pressure more often. So, Omron is the company that makes the cuffs, right? I put one in the bathroom. I put one in the playroom. I put them all over the place. And the reality is, and my wife is a physician, and she was constantly reminding me, take your blood pressure, take your blood pressure. And I still wasn't doing it because it's such a hassle to take your blood pressure, especially during daily life. It's just not a convenient thing to do. So we're sorely lacking in data, again, precision data throughout the day of lifestyle kind of feedback information, because we don't want to treat, as you point out, we don't want to treat blood pressure just because I went to the doctor once every 6 months and my blood pressure was up. I want to know what my blood pressure is doing when I'm sleeping, when I'm waking up in the morning, when I'm exercising, if you can get some of that data. And some of it is easily available, some of it is less. The watch will definitely make it easier, but it's going to take us to a new point in care in that we can't make decisions about things without appropriate medical grade data. Okay, and this is what the watch is giving us. So now, as Gaurav pointed out, when you show up to your clinician and they have access to the platform which is collecting your data, they're looking at it from a medical grade perspective. This is reliable data that they can trust to make medical decisions on. Whereas if it's another watch, which is just happened to be taking one of these different, parameters, but it's not really medical grade, it's not really going to be used other than as an alert.
And also to add one more thing, Gary, because it's over time taking multiple times a day, you can set each watch setting per
Right.
patient, and the doctors can override their settings based on the level of care to provide, right? That has never happened before. I can take my blood pressure in the morning every 15 minutes, then I can take it in the night every 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, depends on that. Deep sleep blood pressure, and so forth. You don't have to wait and sleep with the right position. You don't have to put your hand in and sleep like this to get a blood pressure. We have figured it out that if you're sleeping normally without your hand up here, it's still going to average it out because you take it so many times. No calibration required. How cool is that,
And
right?
that turns out to be a very big point from a medical grade
Yeah,
perspective, and something that we dealt with the original company that we invested in 7 years ago, is that you needed to validate the information, right? Whereas this now, again, and this leads us to the next question.
exactly.
Okay, so talk about how VitalFriend is FDA cleared, which is, very important. And are there any other companies that have an FDA cleared device out there for blood pressure right now? And what other types of FDA clearance are you working on to take this watch to the next level?
Right. So, great question. So, FDA clearance, what we have, I'll talk about that in a minute first, and then we'll talk about the others and everything. So, we are the only one with FDA clearance with blood pressure on the form of a watch. There are other companies who have FDA clearance on the cuff up here, but none on the watch. With accelerometer metrics that we are basically done. Our FDA clearance, the K10 number, is K18 2018. Anybody can look at it. That was part of the due diligence that happened with Gary big time in there because that's our big moat. And then once you apply that, the class 2 device that is there, the indication of use is for your blood pressure, systolic, diastolic, your heart rate, and your pulse, right? When you take, it's not sensor based. We have a PPG, an infrared sensor for both green and red light in there to do different type of sensors. We added the form factor of a watch and added more sensors to it, right? So again, FDA clearance on the blood pressure, heart rate, and pulse. Then there's oxygen, temperature, sleep, steps, multiple other things that we do. And we keep on changing the algorithms to make it, based on the feedback that we get from the patients. We have many patients using this, saved many lives till the time we have been launched. We're only an year in as a startup, just to let you know. So it's been an amazing journey. But in terms of the other updates that we are doing now to know, we want to make sure that we are going to get SAMD certified on our platform. That's one. And then we're going to get the other class 2 basically K numbers on our current device with other vitals. One of the things that we are about to file is the O2 saturation, because we feel that O2 saturation with the blood pressure for sleep apnea and for other things are the key. The reason we built the company is for going after three most important things that's a highly taken over the whole humanity and everywhere in the world. One is your blood pressure, second is your sleep apnea, and the third is your blood sugar. We don't do blood sugar because there's no predicate right now. If you have a predicate, then the K number that comes in on a sensor base, we can add a sensor. Nowadays, technology adding sensor is easy. It's going through the whole cycle of FDA clearance. So blood pressures, we're going to go. We have already done. Now for the O2 is where we are going next. We're not nighttime when you're sleeping and we do a deep sleep blood pressure. Today we get all your O2, your other vitals, your respiratory sensor can tell you exactly what's happening. And then based on that, we can tell you, hey, you're more likelihood to go check your doctor for sleep problem, right? And that's how we can do today. But because O2 is not FDA cleared, we can't stamp it. And that's one of the things we are working on. Other things that are coming out by 2027 into the watch itself, which is the Vital Buddy, you're going to basically be able to get fall detection. You're able to get a lux count sensor for vitamin D. You're able to get the ECG and snoring recording that we are working on, the algorithm. So we do
By sound.
the
Yeah.
sound because you can actually take a phone call right now. It has a mic and a speaker built in this, which is pretty cool because when you're coming, you can say, hey, how are you doing? You can talk freely. It has a lot of bells and whistles built in, which I'm going to go through in a minute to experience and to show the audience how you take a blood pressure, how you use it. But a lot of stuff that is used here, we can leverage to collect the data from the user and apply it for medical related diagnostics. That's our key goal.
Okay,
And
great.
if I have a minute here before we go on, Gary, to show the audience how it's used.
Well,
So,
yeah,
okay,
we don't have that much time.
okay,
So, what I would say is that, and we'll talk about this at the end. Once this is over, anyone who wants to seek more information, especially from the network itself and our members, there's a Vital Friend community on Global Health
perfect.
Impact Network, and all of this, including a recorded pitch event, will be on there. So, and of course, you'll also have immediate availability to pose questions to Gaurav and to myself and the team as well. So let's jump on to. I think we kind of addressed the clinical credibility in terms of the medical grade data and the importance of that, and it being available to both the clinicians and the providers. But it does bring up the next part, which is I want everyone to be clear because we invest in a lot of early stage companies that are MVP, they're pre-revenue, whereas VitalFriend is in a more advanced place. And so, first, tell us, or tell the listeners about how you've deployed this already. How many clinicians are using it? What facilities do you have this on? And where are you now?
So we have a total right now over 80 facilities in two markets, Florida and California. Those are main two markets that we're going after. And we have over 80 facilities. Total people out there with the watches today are over 1,000. And we have over 500 billable to Medicare and other insurance. We have some of them in cash pay model also for longevity clinics and so forth. But our focus of the company is seniors in independent living, assisted living, or skilled nursing facility. And we are right now running at 330K ARR as a company just 1 year in. Like I said, which I am also really intrigued about because a startup which is commercial, have a product, which has revenue coming in, and we are growing like anything. We have a pipeline over tens of thousands of patients right now. And we just hired our chief commercial officer. We have a great C-suite team with over 9 exits. So very great team together that's been put together, handpicked from all my past exits from different startups to create this ecosystem internally and externally to go and flourish basically as providing the right care. So that's where we are in. In terms of the
Great.
total, if you want to know about the money raise, I can happy to bring that up. LMU is basically one of the universities that has invested on other than Global Health Impact Fund, which is now I'm talking to Gary about. So this is the credibility where when you bring about this the investors include some of the doctors, some glaucoma surgeons, cardiologists, nephrologists. We have So in my past, I've raised money over 160 million in my first startup, right, with different venture arms from RPM Ventures, Venrock, Steve Jefferson, DFJ Ventures. But this time, I'm picking up from the doctors because it's healthcare related. So I'm picking up
Mhm.
from the right funds, the right doctors in my private rounds. When I finish my private rounds, I go to my next round, which will be more on Series A side of it. That way, I will think about it and I'll open up the door for the other VCs and the funds to come in.
Right.
But today, the goal is we have a lot of nephrologists, neurologists, cardiologists, urologists, multiple people using this for their patients, other than the skilled nursing facilities and the SNFs. So total money we have raised till date is around 3 million, and we're raising another 2 million on our next safe, basically, which is the last private round that we are gonna be raising. So, glad to meet Gary at the right time with the network he has built.
Right. And I think that brings up an important point too, because if you look at the total addressable market of VitalFriend, it's not narrow, it's very broad, right? And you have to be focused. We all know from a CEO perspective, you can't attack the world all at once. But the reality is that this particular device can be marketed direct to consumer, okay?
Yes.
And that could also be a way to get consumers to pay more attention to their lifestyle, to their health care. And we've had some discussions about how to leverage the network from a provider perspective who's knowledgeable about the device. Then the second part of the market are the clinicians themselves. Having the clinicians deploy this to their patients so they can more easily care for the patients on a day-to-day basis by leveraging not only the device but the platform that Gaurav and team are building, which assists them. It's, again, I'm always very clear that I don't love the AI word, but I call it assisted intelligence.
Yeah.
So it provides a basis in which, again, the clinicians are into the red light, yellow light, green light as well. Let me know when my patient is having abnormal findings or varying or trending in the wrong direction or the right direction. Let me know if my patient is compliant, okay, and they're taking their blood pressure, but this makes it easy because they're wearing it on their wrist. So it really helps the patient be a better patient and the clinician be a better day-to-day provider. And, again, we live in the real world. I take my clinical hat off. I put my venture capital hat on. If you want to promote this to the clinicians, okay, there is always the what's in it for me. That's who our audience is that we're talking to, right? And as pointed out, the Medicare codes are reimbursed for the watch and for the decision support and daily monitoring. So that becomes a very big value because not only are the providers providing better care for the patients, but they're also being compensated for it in the
And
background.
and I need to add this is very important. So we are B2B focused right now, right? And as Gary said, right, B2C is easy for us. But I'd rather go to B2C once the B2B is fully validated. We have all the data, medically proven. B2C should be easy. People from coming from B2C going to B2B is the hardest. People from B2B to B2C is easiest in some cases. And I've done a marketplace in the past in B2C
Mhm.
too.
Okay.
So focus on B2B. Another piece what Gary brought up is very important is we have 5 CPD codes already covering us today. Insurance already covering us the device and everything. These 5 CPD codes equal to $145 per patient per month on the total, in which we give some to a doctor, we take some for our monitoring service, which is clinicians' oversight, and then which is us. Then we take all the data collection and the adherence and everything. We have a 94% adherence. People wear it and they love it because the doctors can send notes directly from our portal to the device. Hey, something happened, call us back, right? Or you missed a medication. What's your effect on your vitals? We were the only ones that people were wearing this that they were able to find which peptides was causing high blood pressure, which is
Right.
completely unrelated to the use case. We didn't even think about the use case was there in the peptide. So that's where it can flourish itself. Our focus have been for the seniors. And this is what I want to bring up, right? There's demos on the platform, there's demos to this, all that, right? Whenever anybody is interested, they can always reach out through the network to us and in the community we have created in the network. That way we can actually have separate
Right.
calls, explain them about some of the things.
And
But
and that's the real value of the network for especially for VitalFriend because our who's in our network? Well, it's the very clinicians that are going to want to
Exactly.
do. And again, the experience that Gaurav and I are having, it was like with me. I subscribe to whoever dies with the most toys wins, right? So, but when I'm presenting this to the clinicians, the first question is, oh, wait, I want to get one of these for myself and try it out like you are, because I really need something like this. Talk about non-compliant patients. Physicians are the worst most of the time because we're so busy. We're not taking our blood pressure all day. We're taking everybody else's blood pressure.
I'll
So
give you I'll give you an example. This is a very so we gave it to one of the doctors. It's so right what Gary said. The power of the network is huge, and the clinicians, because we are in the healthcare, we gave it to one of the doctors. He an ER emergency doctor. He loves it. He uses it for himself, his wife. He also has diabetes, but great guy, right? He suddenly reached out to me and said, Gaurav, I love everything on the device. It works. I've done it multi-connection, sitting down, this, that, has done, readings from my cuff, readings from the watch, from the buddy, no problem. But I need to change one feature. I need to suggest you. I'm like, okay, tell me. Because it automatically does the BP, I'm in the middle of helping in the ER and it starts taking my BP, and I'm like doing like this in front of everything, which I'll tell you what Gary calls it in a minute. So then he said, "Can I have a simple feature that when I'm basically busy and it knows that I'm on the steps and everything is happening, and it still does the reminder of taking the BP at a certain time? It should just show a pop up, and I can just say, hey, snooze it for 15 minutes."
right,
And then
and
I'm
I
done. I'm like, cool. So he mentioned it. We went to our development team. We got it done 2 weeks. It was out. We do 12 hardware, firmware releases a year, and we do 24, which is every 2 weeks, software releases in our product every year. That's how committed we are in terms of what we're building.
right,
Give it to
and that's very responsive to your user population, not just the
exactly.
patients, but also the
Doc-
clinicians themselves who are also patients at some time.
That's it.
Um,
And before
that's great.
that, I wanted to say, so I think I'll have Gary explain you when we take a BP, we do this. What do
Right.
you call this?
Well, here it is. The buddies salute.
That's
I,
the one.
I told Gurav, I said, 5 years from now, I want to go to the park with my dogs and look around and see everyone sitting on benches
Going like this.
doing the buddy salute. And we all know that we're part of the same club. That's great. All right. So, we got to wrap this up here a little bit. So give us just briefly, what's the feedback you're getting from the clinicians that are wearing the watches and using it?
I signed up one of the investors and one of a dear doctor who just came in last week. He's a glaucoma surgeon. And we talked about it, and he just loved it. And why I'm bringing that specific to him, I didn't even know that a glaucoma surgeon will be so interested in the body and the continuous monitoring of blood pressure for the eye. And he explained me and blew my mind. I have another doctor who signed up and came as an investor who is a dental surgeon and was looking at sleep studies and everything or with us. So the feedback has been brilliant because the people to test a product and to tell whether it works or not, who better than the clinicians? Patients will tell you, but if you tell the patients, hey, your blood pressure is 120, now it's 125, 130, 116, as long as it's green, yellow, red, they're okay, right? But a clinician will actually look at them saying, hey, this looks pretty off because I just tested twice. So the feedback has been, wow, Gaurav, this is amazing because it works for them. They have seen it tested themselves fully. Second, their patients have come back and said, "Thanks, doctor, for giving this to us." Because now the doctor can look at the patient's data and can tell you, "Hey, you need this thing, and you need to be able to be on it." Right? So that's the whole remote patient monitoring. Third, the facility owners have come to us and thanked us because now they know who to provide better care. The time they've saved on the nurses that
Mhm.
can be deployed to others because they're no longer taking vitals for every single person or seeing where the medication reminder is or what's happening if they missed a medication. All that is taken away because of our device. They really love it. They also love it because if you're in an ALF, I don't know how many people you know that is. If you're in an ALF and you're collecting all the vitals, these caretakers, these owners are writing every single thing down or feeding into into their platform every single time. Now, if they do a doctor visit, because in an ALF you could have 100 beds, two of these could be referred by this doctor, three of them could be here, 10 of them could be here. So there's all these doctors, right, that now come back to the ALF and saying, can you please give me information about my patient? They have to go back into the files, look at the platform, download the stuff and send it. Right now, they go to our, our Vital Insights. They click a button, generates a full report of their BP, everything, multi-page. They send it out in email, and now the doctor has everything in hand. They
Mhm.
can even have access real time by logging in. That
Right.
has been a create cool factor. Family members have come to us and thanked us because we were able to even call the time of death for some of the patients who were wearing this. And we were taking their blood pressure in the night. I can tell you, it was my mind blowing when I looked at the data of people who passed away, how the body reacts, what happens. And the family member actually thanked us for many things, not just this. I have used cases and testimonials where the mom woke up at 2 a.m. because it was doing a high blood pressure and this would vibrated. And then after that, she got up and ate a medicine. We have used cases where the patient
Fine.
basically got an alert, and my monitoring team called that patient, a diabetes patient, called them, and then woke them up to have a sugar, a spoon of sugar for stabilizing their heart rate. So feedback has been great and amazing. There have been also people, I'll also say, everything is not sugar coated. That's not how I work because I work thinking like an investor and as a founder to make this company successful for the right mission. So I'm never going to sugarcoat it. There has been cases where some people have said my systolic is way off or doesn't work every time because they happen to go through a surgery. So what we do in that case is, Gary, we have a whole team that work with those patients, right, to see what it is happening. And if they're too early in the stage and we cannot give them a device, we take it back. It's not like we have to mandate this device for every single person. We have enough in the market. The cool part is the norm loves it. And there could be cases where if you have had a surgery right away, and now after the surgery, your blood pressure is going up and down and
Mhm.
everything, right? Sometimes those points, they're off by 10 points versus our record is 2 or 3 points, is our standard deviation and everything. So if you are, then I say, you know what, hold on. Let's put it after a month.
Mhm.
Don't put it right away because we are also learning from that feedback. So,
Well, and that's the thing, because there are other sources of data, of course. I think, I told you I went for my 10-year colonoscopy and I was in pre-op and I'm an anesthesiologist. And the nurse came in to hook me up to all the monitors. I said, nah, you don't need to hook it up. I said, I got this watch. And she just laughed. And I let her do all the vital signs. And then I showed her what was on the watch. And she goes, they're the same. I said, exactly. So think about that, in terms of the
great.
possibilities, in terms of workforce availability, and which is a big issue right now. We have shortages of nurses, shortages of doctors. We can't do what we would like all the time when you have to have a human do it. But if you
Yeah.
have a device like this, then it can be proactive. And the one point that I will bring up, and then we'll move on to the next question, is that if you think about it, the proactivity of this is huge, because if now, let's say, the next version of the watch has fall detection, right? So now when you have that rapid, it's called an accelerometer. And when you have that rapid change in your positioning, it sends an alert to the system, right?
Yeah.
Now, right now, we've all seen that commercial from years ago. Help, I've fallen and I can't get up with the button,
Correct.
right? Well, now you're really doing that, but you're doing that at a much higher level, because now you don't have to press the button anymore. Now the watch sends a message to whoever's monitoring this, okay? And it could even be remote, where it sends a message by page to the nurse that's traveling around the senior living facility. And they can then have the watch take a blood pressure, or I would imagine it could also be pre-programmed that when the accelerometer goes off, it also takes a blood
You're,
pressure.
you're reading you're reading from my future
Yeah,
roadmap
exactly.
there where we call it the predictive fall.
Yes.
So before you fall and at fall or in fall, and now you're fallen, it knows into how it's taking your vitals. And because you've fallen, it automatically moves into recovery mode and takes your vitals every second or millisecond.
That's
Then it
great.
automatically checks the normal curve to the previous curve and sends the alert right away. Doesn't wait up to press nothing. So
Right.
this is where you're saying the future is absolutely.
Right. And again, it's so much better care for the patients. We have 100-year-old mom who's in a senior living facility, and I'm like, we got to get this watch for her, because I sit there sometimes for hours and watch the staff come in, go out, remind her to take her medications, do all these things. A lot of that can be accomplished with
Yes.
the watch. So that's great. All right. So, basically, the last part, let's, push all the medical stuff aside. Let's put our investor hats on. Tell me a little bit about, just briefly, where you are now in terms of revenue, and then use of proceeds that you want to use from this round.
So we are in 330K ARR right now. We have a team. I already mentioned about the C-suite team before. Great team, with multi-exits. And our total burn right now is around 150 per month at this moment. And what we're raising is on a safe note, which is $25 million safe, which is a $25 million cap safe. And we're raising 2 million on that. This is our last round of a total of 5 million raise that we were planning to do on a seed round. And it's what we are in. And we want to use this proceeds for not for software development, not for hardware development. We're done in that. The proceeds are used basically for increasing sales, more marketing and awareness, because I'll tell you, we are 80 years. So I go back to the blood pressure era, how it was taken with the stethoscope, then moved into mercury, then moved into Omron of a more digital, then more digital, then hand, and now a watch, right? So training is involved, awareness is involved, telling people, hey, this works and stuff. So that is the marketing piece. So we are going to be an education and training. And then the last is AI. And as you just said, assisted AI, which is very good to say that, because whatever AI we do today in our system, our LLM models, is used by the physicians to provide better care and save time for them. So we're going to do a lot more in terms of models we're doing. We have a whole AI calling to the family members in terms of alerts that are happening. Those are already done. But that's how the proceeds are going to be used. So repeat again, it's going to be under marketing, it's going to be sales, it's going to be operational efficiency and AI. That's how we're using that before our next round, which we are basically planning to cover about 3,500 patients, which is going to give us around 3 million ARR. And then we are ready for the other bigger round, I'll call it, which could be whatever. Or maybe not, if we are doing all the things because of some of the pipelines we are working on, monetizes quickly on the law enforcement side, the government side, and on the SNF side, the skilled nursing facility side, then we might not need to raise. Depends on that time.
Right. All right. Well, I'd like to thank Gaurav for spending the time with us. I'd like to let everyone know who's listening to this that whether if you're already on the network or invested in the fund, you want to get additional information, just go to the Global Health Impact Network hands-in platform. You can also go to the VitalFriend website as well, and there'll be certainly on the network there'll be additional information, especially for network members, which includes, all the usual due diligence information and information about the device and information about the platform and all of that. For those of you that are not network members, at the end of this presentation, there'll be a QR code and a link that you can use to join the network if you're a health professional. And once you're on the network, you'll get access to the community and additional information. You can also post questions to Gaurav or to the team as well while you're on there. So you have ongoing both, direct collaboration opportunity. And then we will have additional informational events like this as time goes by, as we continue to work with Gaurav and VitalFriend at the network level, as well as from a capitalization perspective in terms of investment opportunities. Gaurav?
I want to add one thing. We're just touching the surface. Guys, love the support of the clinicians. That's the reason. Love to work with Gary in terms of what he has built in the Impact Fund. Like I said, every person who's invested in us is handpicked for a mission and a cause, and love to have GHIN and GHIF supporting it. And they're gonna go. We've just touched the surface. There's preeclampsia, there's dialysis, there's aneurysm, you name it. There are many areas where blood pressure is still a very crucial piece. You apply that to the sleep apnea side of it, there's so much we can do. So I want to make sure that people understand, right? We are no longer, it's not the future. We are living it right now. And it's not when we say something is coming in 2028, 2029. The way we anticipate, or I anticipate this is going to be, is let me take you a glimpse of the 2028. Hi, Gaurav. How are you doing today? Hey, buddy, I'm doing well. How can you help me? It looks like your stress levels from yesterday night and you did not sleep well properly. Maybe today, just take it easy and breathe, because we have a breathing app in this. And, take it easy a little. Take about 5 minutes for yourself. And we've seen your heart rate has been actually not been predictive. It's been really up and down in various things. So That's the future where you're talking to an AI, it's helping you right away, or medication, or water, or exercising, remembers information about you, makes it better for you. That's what we're going into. And that's not far away. I'm talking about 2028. So
Right.
some of the cool models that are coming out in our product line, they're wearing colors and everything. It's coming out in October. And some of the new ones that we're going to be launching in CES next year, January, is going to be our next high level, model. We call it the Vital Buddy Ultra. So love to talk. If anybody has questions, glad to be here.
Great. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening, and we look forward to hearing from you. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.